This is going to be a long post, but I promise you it's worth it. It's important that I first explain a few things so you understand how my brain works. So I hope you're sitting down. But first I must explain this. A few days ago, a wonderful friend who regularly posts on a Facebook Morgellons group alerted me to the work of a Dutch biologist named Dr. Daniel Bell van Eeden. This clever man investigated Morgellons extensively during the first decade of the century. He kept a blog and made 404 posts to the Biology Online forum in a thread named The Fiber Disease. However, he was no fool, and realized that his information could cost him his life. So, rather than just come out and say what he had to say straight, he posted what is, in effect, a trail of breadcrumbs that, when followed by the knowledgeable, would reveal the solution to, and the history of Morgellons disease. But he did make one clear statement: cyanobacteria, trypanosoma, fungi, among them Fusarium spp, and slime molds are all deeply involved. Sometime after he alerted the ECDC to his findings, his blog was deleted from the web, the Biology Online thread was locked, and Van Eeden simply disappeared from view. I'm currently conflating all his available writings, and I'll post the document to Scribd when it's done soon. However, either no other biologist on the planet has Van Eeden's expertise, or they are all putting their own individual safety before that of humanity. So that's the backstory. Please read on. I'm 61 years old and I have been a professional writer all my life. In my 40s, I discovered something that enabled me to vastly increase both my output and its quality. What I did was to put a problem or situation into words, speak them aloud, then simply forget about it. Every time I did this, the answer would either reveal itself in a vivid dream, or it would just pop into my head out of nowhere, like a new slide in a slideshow carousel. All my best writing comes from this technique. Essentially, what I did was to hand over control to my subconscious mind and allow it to come up with the solution. The subconscious mind controls the autonomic nervous system, and the endocrine system is a part of this. The pineal gland is part of the endocrine system. This gland has long been known as the third eye in Eastern philosophies and medical systems. And what's remarkable and unexplainable by Western science is that it contains photoreceptors in the form of rods and cones. These are also present in our eyes, and they are what enable us to process light. The pineal is also the seat of intuition and insight, which means inner vision. Quantum physics now knows that all life is connected to non-locality. Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, wrote, "All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration, which holds the atom together." We must assume behind this force is the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. Carl Jung discovered a small part of it and called it the collective unconscious. The pineal gland is what connects all of us to it. This is why our water is fluoridated. Fluoride calcifies it. Soon after I contracted Morgellons, I stopped dreaming. 5 days ago, I started to run 2 different sets of spooky frequencies on myself. One was for colloidal silver and gold, which greatly increases electrical conductivity in the body, and the other was for the normalization and stimulation of the pineal gland. The results were almost instant. My sleep time shot up from 5 hours to 8 hours, and I started to dream again, vivid dreams which went on through the night. The night before last, I tried an experiment using my old writing trick. I asked the question aloud: what is the connection between Morgellons, cyanobacteria, protozoan parasites, fungi, and slime molds? Then I forgot about it. Until I received an answer. Just one word. Photosynthesis. Cyanobacteria is also called blue-green algae. However, they are not true algae, but bacteria. They are aquatic, and photosynthetic. They convert light into energy to fuel their own biomass production. In the presence of light, they are also able to control their own buoyancy, and in its absence, they float helplessly to the surface of water. In the presence of phosphorus and nitrogen, they can form vast, thick algal blooms. These blooms block sunlight from penetrating the water, and this, together with the toxins released by dying cyanobacteria cells, kills most other plant and animal life in the water. When the cells die, the process of decomposition also severely depletes the oxygen content of the water. The human body is 75–80% water. So what does light have to do with our bodies? All animal life on Earth consumes plants. With the exception of fungi, plants grow in full-spectrum sunlight. They convert the light into chemical energy that forms carbohydrates in the presence of carbon dioxide, and they produce oxygen. But what has only recently been discovered is that plants also store photons, units of pure light energy. In 1970, Professor Fritz Albert Popp researched cancer and carcinogenic chemicals. In the course of that work, he discovered that all living systems store photons in their bodies. These photons come from sunlight entering through the skin, and from the photons we consume in food. The storehouse for photons is DNA, present in every cell in our bodies. Biophotons are essentially weak UV light, and different wavelengths are used by the body for different purposes. Dr. Popp's research has since been duplicated and verified many times. Intriguingly, there are documented cases of people eschewing food altogether and getting their biophotons from sunlight alone. Popp discovered that the wavelength used for human cell repair is 380 nanometers. If this is not available from our DNA storehouses, damaged cells can never repair themselves, and will undergo cell death. When you have Morgellons, you essentially have an algal bloom throughout your body. We also contain both nitrogen and phosphorus, the elements that fuel it. This bloom gobbles up most of the available biophotons, kills beneficial flora, and depletes blood and cell oxygenation, thus preventing efficient oxidation of pathogens. As the algal cells die, they release a constant flow of toxins. When the sun goes down, fungi join in with the now less active cyanobacteria. Fungi have evolved to use only the very weak light that's available at night, starlight and moonlight. This is essentially the same kind of biophotonic light that's present in our bodies. Most Morgellons sufferers report a big increase in activity at every full moon, and most also report increased activity from dusk onward. In this way, our biophotons are consumed 24 hours a day, our cells can never repair themselves, we become prey to opportunistic infections, some of which are already packaged with Morgellons, and we weaken and die. I believe one of the main functions of dysostilid slime molds in the process is to transport the fused Morgellons organisms up through the skin when each colony enters the aggregative stage of its life cycle. At and close to the skin's surface, it will perform just like an algal bloom on the surface of water, reduce sunlight penetration and thus photons, deplete cutaneous oxygen, and kill the skin's beneficial flora, whose job it is to prevent pathogen ingress. There are, of course, other organisms and technologies involved in Morgellons. But I believe this is a systemic driver, without which none of the rest could ever succeed. I still have to research the link with Trypanosoma. I believe I now know the species involved. All of this explains many other things: chemtrailing to reduce sunlight photon exposure and poison the soil, the insistent and relentless introduction of genetically modified foods that won't store photons properly or will convert their wavelengths to injurious ones, and the forced ban on full-spectrum artificial light in homes and workplaces under the guise of energy saving are three that spring immediately to mind. Morgellons disease is part of an assault on light. Dr. Van Eden didn't make this connection because of the rigid compartmentalization of Western science. This is evident even in the individual sciences, particularly medicine. It has been deliberately introduced to function as effective blinders for scientists. For those of you who are awake, who is the light bearer? Please copy and repost this elsewhere. I hope I haven't bored you all with this story. Like, follow, post, Sweet November D. Burke, sounds about right. In my case,